All right, so the second step is to just kind of clean up your cover, make sure that your cover is how you want it to look, and then I'm going to demonstrate how to put in your text. We're going to use placeholder text in this situation. Some of you may want to import writing if you have any writing about the person, but we're going to be fine with placeholder text for this assignment. So notice I've added introduction edition, the issue date, put a little definition. I also put a barcode down at the bottom. I also found a really neat quote that I liked, and I kind of doubled the text so that you can see a little bit of a shadow behind it to make it stand out. Now, to make other things have a little bit more of a special effect, for instance, the title, Frida Kahlo Magazine, I want to stand out some more. So I'm just going to go Object, Effects, and I'm going to put a drop shadow on this. Notice that gives kind of a little bit more of a dimension to the masthead. And then I also want to put an outer glow just to kind of make it stand out a little bit more. So you may want to go into Object Effects as well. And then I'm going to hit OK. I'm going to move this up a tad so that I can select my issue date separately. I do want to move that down a bit, and then I'm going to move magazine and Kahlo up a little bit more. Okay, so now her name stands out really well. I'm in preview mode, but I'm going to go back to my regular mode, and I'm going to zoom out just a bit. Okay, so to put in your placeholder text, the first thing you're going to want to do is get your T tool and drag a really, really large text box over the whole first 2 pages. Those first 2 pages are now going to be covered in what we call placeholder text. Placeholder text is under Type, Fill with Placeholder Text. Now notice mine looks like a bunch of gray bars, and that's just because I'm zoomed out a little too far. If I zoom in, what you can see is that I have lots and lots of words in here, none of which are really readable. It's not in Spanish, it's not in French, it's actually a font called Lorem Ipsum that is just used for designers and layout. So don't feel the need to read it. It's just for images and placeholder. So after you have the first column set, you're just going to grab the corners. You're going to pull those all the way into the column so that they fit snugly in that first column between the 2 purple lines. Make sure you pull the top down, push the bottom up, and then what you're going to do is look for the little icon down at the bottom that has a red plus sign. Each time you click on that plus sign, it's going to give you the rest of the text. And you're going to start putting in your text in whatever layout you think would be most interesting. So you can play around with it a bit. I like to do some variety here instead of just straight columns the whole way through. But notice that if you go in order, all of those bits of information are going to be in the right order. So it's just extending this article, which isn't really an article because we don't have actual words in here, but this is just to kind of provide a layout opportunity. So I'm going to keep going even down to these 2 pages. Scoot over here. And maybe on this back page I want to do something a little different. So I'm going to pull the article across for 2 pages. Maybe I'll have a big picture, a diagram down here, and then maybe just a short bit of an article right here. And that's the end of my placeholder text. So I could probably add some more in there when I start getting pictures in, but this is how you're going to lay out your text, and then you're going to work around it with your images. So the next step is to show you how to place some images, and there are lots of ways to do this. We've got a nice folder full of pictures here. So if I wanted to do one of her self-portraits, I could just pull it in. And if I go in here and drop it off, it's going to expand. This is basically like what we did with the cover. So if I wanted it to fit maybe down, or let's say I wanted to fit in this section right up here, I could position it, make it smaller by holding Command and Shift, and then I'm going to actually format it by just pulling those corners. So that's one way to place your images. Okay, that's cropping quite a bit of the information of the photo off, but it still gives the main detail of her facial features. Okay, so that's one way to do your placing. The next way I'm going to show you is how to use a text frame. So I'm going to use a circle frame. I'm going to hold Shift to make a perfect circle. This time I'm going to go File and Place. I'm going to choose one of my Frida photos, and I'm going to put that picture right inside. Now it's way too big, so what I'm going to do next is I'm going to go to Object Fitting, and I want to fill frame proportionately, or I want to fit frame to content. There are a lot of different options here, or I could center content. I'm going to center it first, and then I'm just going to pull the, oops, I have that frame selected too still. I'm going to just pull that down, and notice that I can actually expand it to fit. Now once I have it the way I want it, I hold Shift and Command, and then it will shrink the way I want it to look. So I can place this anywhere on my magazine, maybe between two columns, and one of the neat things you can do is go Window, Text Wrap, and then I can choose to have the text wrap around the photo. So notice once I do that, the words actually go around that photo, and that's a neat way to play with your layout. So I'm going to leave it at this for now. I'm going to continue on this next tutorial to show you some more special effects, but this should give you enough to start placing your images and your text.